Okay. Steve, your new album Inviolate combines a strong accentuation of the guitar with a good song or track orientation. So, how hard is it for you to find the right balance between soloing, yes, and song orientation?
Well, when I approach a piece of music to record it, the first thing I look for is a particular feeling, you know, and that feeling has to have an enthusiasm in it. It has to have some kind of a aha moment. So you kind of get a picture of what it is you want to do, and then you invest in that emotional landscape of
Yes.
the that the usually for me it's like a riff. It might start as a riff that I just record and I like on my iPhone or something, but there's
Hmm.
an energy in it,
Hmm.
and when I was putting the music together for Inviolate, I was feeling more free than any other time in my career. I think that has to just do with doing it so long, and it was really uh, one of the every time you go to record something new or you go to do something new, if you've invested your whole life in it, you're
Yeah,
gonna
yeah.
you're gonna make evolutions in it. You're gonna progress and you're gonna get deeper. And for a musician, I think that reflects in feeling more free to just do what it is that their imagination is dictating, as opposed to what the uh, preconceived idea of what the public might be
Mm.
expecting from you. So that was paramount with in Violet. And whenever I do choose a song, the way that I balance it's based on the song, but the way that I balance the melody part and the solo part is relatively conventional. For me, the song has to stand on its own as a piece of music,
Hmm.
something that's
Yes.
pleasing and interesting, and that is usually reflected in the quality of the melody. You
Hmm.
know,
Hmm.
so I always go as deep as I can in creating a melody that I think is appropriate. And once you can establish the melody, and then because guitar players just love to jam and jam and
Yeah.
wank and shred, I reserve that for the solo. And when I go to approach a solo, there's two different ways that I might approach it. One of them is a very kind of forensic, where I sit and I'll loop a section and I'll just keep playing until something interesting that I've never done before starts to emerge, and then I work on it, work on it, work on it, and then I get it. And conversely, sometimes when I do a solo, there's no thought. There's just you know in the
Hmm.
moment improvising. But what I notice when I do my complete improvising, a lot of the stuff that I worked out, the new kind of it flows into it. So that's how you can evolve your voice on the instrument.
Hmm. So yes, it's another question that would come later normally, but you told it. If you see your musical progress over the decades, maybe as a solo artist, yeah, for example, your first solo album was Flexible in 1984. To the new one, do you see a musical progress or a progress in your guitar playing? Are you better now than in 84, or is it just the same music in a different shape? How would you see it?
Well, if I was to look back at my progress as a guitar player, I was terrible when I was young. Obviously, I mean, I see young guitar players now that just that's like they're 8 years old and they're like, what? But I grew up sort of in this. I was a teenager in the '70s, so Jimmy Page, Brian May, Richie Blackmore, all these kinds of great '70s rock guitar players were my influence, and I just kind of absorbed that playing. I absorbed that energy into my music, and then when I was I think when I made Flexible, that first record, I kind of had an awkward style, that I developed. It was this weird picking that was more towards the neck, and I could play fast, but my tone sucked. I had no
Hmm.
tone.
Yeah, yeah.
And then when I started to work for Frank, and back then also, when guys like Edward Van Halen hit the scene, and Yngwie, and these kinds of guitar players that had a real tonal quality, that really changed my thinking. There was a period
Hmm.
there when I had joined the band Alcatraz that I was following Yngwie, and I liked what I played, but I didn't like the way I was playing it.
Hmm.
So I switched my style completely, and all the picking, everything changed, and really my playing just blossomed,
Hmm.
and that kept going through the 80s and the 90s. I kind of maybe have plateaued as a virtuoso, like
Hmm.
chops shredding, maybe around the late '90s, 2000, and then I just retained that level of chops, but what I was playing changed, and the way that it changed, I think, was a part of just growing and being more influenced and knowing more what you want.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
one of the greatest discoveries that I made for me, and a lot of people already doing it, but it's a psychological
Yeah.
approach. And what I notice is there's a big difference, a huge difference between playing something that is an academic kind of a scale or
Hmm.
something that you're using your brain for, as opposed to listening. You actually have to separate yourself from the person that's playing and become the listener of what you're playing.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's a practice, but when you get into that zone, you're embracing the present moment. And because your mind is not wondering, uh, what am I going to play? What are these people thinking about it? Boy, this
Hmm.
sounds like crap. Or why is the bass player playing this? All that goes away when you become the listener
Hmm.
of what's
Hmm.
coming off of your fingers, and then that's really when magical things start happening. So I may have had a level of chops that maybe went like this now and then, but my phrasing, and my ability
Hmm.
to listen more inside, that's
Hmm.
that's what has evolved.
Hmm. Yes, I understand. And you mentioned it before. You worked with Frank Zappa, David Lee Roth, Whitesnake, Alcatraz. So did these, yeah, experiences in other bands influence you for your solo career, or is it, yeah, has there's no influence on your solo art?
It's impossible to escape influence.
Yeah,
You may think that you have, but anytime you hear or see anything, which is all the time,
yeah.
all it will absolutely add to who you are somehow.
Hmm. Hmm.
You are a different person now than now. So
Of course, yeah.
yeah, as when I was going through all those rock bands, they offered a great opportunity for me to engage in a kind of a rock and roll fantasy that
Hmm.
a lot of young players dream of, and it
Yeah,
was
yeah.
it was just fantastic. I mean, I got to tour with big playing arenas and selling millions of records with Roth and Whitesnake, and it definitely affected my playing, of
Hmm.
course, because you go through something like that and you're playing a lot of Edward Van Halen parts,
Hmm.
and all of these things
Yeah,
shape.
of course. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how. I mean, when I look at my playing now, I couldn't say, "Oh, that I got that when I was on the Roth tour," but it all goes into the
Yeah,
same
yeah, of
pool.
course.
Yeah.
And I've read that you are a studied musician as well. You were on the Berklee College of Music and you have transcribed the music of other artists. So how helpful was this experience for your art? for your playing, is it important, or is it just your academic education that's behind you?
Well, you might notice that you're not good at things that you're not interested in usually, but you can become very good at
Hmm.
those things that you are interested in. That, and music, written music, manuscript was always unbelievably fascinating to me. It fascinated me first when I was like 6 years old.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I was always interested in the language of music. I loved the
Hmm.
way it looked. You know what I mean? It's like art. And I would start doodling notes when I was a kid, and then eventually I actually started writing, and that continued through my entire career. As a matter of fact, in May, I'm going to Holland for a month to record
Hmm.
about 4 hours of my music with the Metropole Orchestra, and I love doing orchestral composition. It's a totally different brain muscle.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yes, and yeah, on this new album, Inviolate, you have used a triple neck guitar, yeah, the Hydra, and it's on one song, Teeth of the Hydra. So what stands behind this extraordinaire guitar model? What can you do with this guitar, what you couldn't do before?
Well, I would have needed three guitars, four, to do
Yeah.
what I would do without the Hydra. The Hydra came about because I have a quirky sense of creativity. And I like, when I was young, I really loved, besides music, I loved theater, I loved performance, and I loved magic.
Hmm. Hmm.
Like magic tricks. So I think if I was to quantify my how that shows itself through my playing, I'd say I'm probably about 75% musician, 10%, no, maybe about 15% uh, showman, performer, ham,
Yeah.
you know, and the rest is like just a voyager.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, and do your musicians have an influence in your music as well, or in the arrangements, or are they just your, how should I say, musicians? Have they play the same way as you wanted, or can they, yeah, co-decide things?
You know what? I want to answer that question, but I want to get back to the Hydra because I didn't
Okay,
really.
sorry, I didn't know that
Yeah,
you. I thought
I,
that.
I thought yeah.
I th
Sorry about that. So
Yeah, yeah, okay,
say a
okay.
part of me is like a magician, or attracted to what a magician does. So you can see in a lot of the stuff I do, some of it just is. I got my moves, my kind of tricks, cheating and stuff like that. But
Ah,
I
yeah,
like adding that. So with the Hydra, I always wanted to create a guitar that had multi necks that I could actually
yeah.
create a song. Create where everything is connected. And the guitar took like 4 years to develop because we kept having, we're going back and forth and back and
Yeah,
forth.
yeah,
Finally
yeah,
got it. I was just thinking, how am I going to do this? Because
yeah.
the instrument is like, it's a highly technical instrument. It's got all the necks, and it's got piezos and synthesizer sections and sustainers and all these great features. And I was determined to use them all, you know,
Hmm.
in one piece of music. So I just sat behind the Hydra and just, I knew that the song Teeth of the Hydra needed to be a piece of music that could stand on its own
Hmm.
and not be a gimmick for a guitar. So that I knew involved having a great melody. So I did the best melody I could, and it was really fun. Like when you see how it's performed, you'll understand. But to get to your second question, whether how much freedom do I give
Yeah.
musicians? Yeah, it varies, and it's based on different things. Like as a composer or a songwriter and a producer, and an engineer, because that's what I do with all my records. I engineer, I produce. I love
Hmm.
doing all that. I have to hear a song and a lot of the times I know exactly what the parts need to be, and then I work them out with the players. But there's vast sections of the show, and even on records, where I step back, and I just let the artist, the musician, contribute, and I just listen. And on Inviolate, there's a good amount of that. Songs like Apollo in Color, where I had Hendrik Linder and Vinnie Colaiuta, Hendrik on bass, and the guy's a freak, he's absolutely astonishing player, and Vinnie Colaiuta. And another thing about the lockdown that was interesting, advantageous to me, was I started sending tracks out to artists, to players.
Understand, yeah.
And I wasn't there to direct them. And they just would do their parts, and I'd get them back, and I'd go, why do I have to get involved? These guys know what they're doing. And so that was something nice that happened. And that, obviously, the song has structure, and they have to follow the structure.
Of course,
but they get full reign to do whatever they want.
Okay, okay, I understand. Yeah, that's good. And I've read that you have had a shoulder operation and a finger operation. So did it influence your playing and on Inviolate? And how are you now? Is everything fine? Or must your fans be being afraid of your state of health?
Well, it's a kind of, I'm a healthy guy, I don't know. It's funny if I go to the doctor, and like when you have to fill out, do you have this, do you have that, do you have that, everything is no. And it's that's great. And I like to take holistic approaches to things, and I'm rarely sick. We all got COVID, and we got over it pretty quick, and that was kind of nice, because then we got it, it's done, hopefully. But structural things in my body seem to have been a challenge through my career at times, because even back with Dave Roth, I got neck surgery. I had a disc taken out, and in the back I had back. So that. But after that, it was great. But when I flash ahead many years till about 3 years ago, I just started to feel something that wasn't right. And it was, I don't know if it was something because playing like this for 50 years or working out in the gym and doing chest flies, and having a pain and not really paying attention for years. And then all of a sudden, it got to the point where any holistic approach wasn't going to work. So I got that fixed last December. And at the same time, I developed that trigger finger. And then I recorded Inviolate, and it was great. And so the way that injury influenced me, I guess, was when I got back from this surgery. I had my arm in a sling called a knapsack, and I couldn't use it, but I had my left hand. So I just thought, you know what? I could write a song with just one hand. And I wrote this song, Knapsack. And again, I didn't want it to come off like a gimmick. It needed to sound like a standalone piece of music, And so that was the first focus. But that's one of the ways that that injury I made lemonade out of lemons. Mm-hmm. But over the summer, I had done something stupid, and I actually tore another tendon, But this was an actual accident, And I thought I could get away with it. I was making the record as I had it, but and then we had the tour. And the tour, it's like a mega tour that I'm booking. It's like 250 shows around the world, every country. It's going to take like a year and a half. And when I was preparing for it, it became very obvious that there was no way that I was going to make it, And, so I'm just going to get it fixed, and we just moved one of the legs of the tour. But it's interesting because all of these structural kinds of things that happened to me over the past few years, and now I'm in the press, and it's like Steve Vai is undergoing another surgery, and I'm like, oh shit. I'm doing well, and any fans that might be concerned about me continuing, Right now, I feel like I'm kicking ass, and I'm really eager to get going here. And when that day comes that I can't do this, I can assure you that I'll be doing other things that you might find very interesting.
Hmm. And you mentioned the song Knapsack, and you played it with one hand, or with the other was injured. So did it give you more artistical freedom, or was it a different approach? So because this was bad for you, of course, but otherwise, I saw the video, it's outstanding. So was it a challenge, or how should I say, an opportunity for you as well?
Yeah, I love to look for ideas. You know, I love to look for ideas, and when they show themselves, the good ones are very obvious.
Hmm.
And everybody does this. Everybody's looking for inspiration and ideas to be creative. And when I got home, when I got home from the surgery, hang on. When I got home, sorry about that.
Great, great,
When I
great.
got home from the surgery, I was in the knapsack and I couldn't play,
Yeah, yeah,
but I could,
yeah, 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 yeah,
it's not that it's not it's not a great secret. If you have a
yeah,
legato
yeah.
kind of a hammering style, you can, but you got to do something melodic.
Of course, yes.
So I
And
really enjoyed doing. The real challenge with Knapsack was that we were in lockdown, and I didn't have anybody at the studio, so I had to, set up the amps. Well, the amps were set up, and I had to mic everything, set up the session, set up the camera, record everything, edit it, mix it, all with one hand.
you had no person that helped you, or no cameraman or recording engineer. It was everything on your own.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
But
was
you know what I noticed, Rick, is that if you just start something that seems impossible and you give every little action that you take your full attention without complaining in your head about anything, everything works very smoothly, very beautifully. You chip away at it, and then all of a sudden the joy is in the journey.
Mhm, mhm,
Yeah.
mhm. Yeah. And yeah, on former albums, you have brought in songs with vocals, but this time, it's completely instrumental. So, what was the reason that it's an instrumental album?
Well, my records in the past have been diverse in regard to vocals. I've had vocals on most of my records, but maybe a song here and a song there, because I never really, the only time I ever drew a line and said, okay, this is going to be a pure vocal record was when I did Sex and Religion. And
Mhm.
other than that, the only time I ever told myself this is going to be a purely instrumental record was when I did Alien Guitar Secrets and Inviolate. I
Mhm.
said, this is going to be, I just want to make this, 9 songs that I can get out there and play. I'm not going to confuse anybody with vocals at this time. I'm not going to add any little filler in between bits with Munchkin vocals or anything like
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'm not going to create a big concept that has to attach itself to anything else. Each song is its own story.
Mhm, mhm,
And I love creating stories for a song, because it
mhm,
helps you to sort of unpack the emotional component.
mhm,
If you have a story. So that was really it, and I wanted to get on tour and play every one of the songs.
mhm. So, and you told it, they tell a story, and yeah, most of the parts, most of the songs could be used as film music as well. So,
Yeah,
do you
something
agree? Do you agree? And wouldn't
very
it be good
cinematic.
idea,
Yeah.
maybe to take the songs, rearrange some songs, but it's yeah some kind of film music. And
Yeah, the word that can be used to describe that is cinematic.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
The music does have a cinematic kind, like Teeth of the Hydra. That would be a great background
yeah,
track.
yeah, yeah,
Or James Bond or
yeah,
something.
yeah, 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 richtig, you're right.
I spend precious little time trying to sell my music to the films, though.
Maybe,
They have to come and find it, and they're
yeah,
not.
yeah.
They're not doing that.
Hmm, hmm. And you have done many, as we have figured out or found out, many, yeah, you are a very experienced musician. You were in many bands and you have gone many musical paths. So the title Inviolate, so how does it relate to your music? Is it totally different or Inviolate? So does it relate to your music in any case, or was it just yeah, an idea?
Yeah. Well, being a musician is a very creative process. There's no real rules. There's no legislation. There's no laws. No. There's no laws that even say that you have to tell the truth.
Yeah.
Give away all your secrets. But I'm sorry. What was the question again? I want to make sure I answer.
Is it how do you find the title of this album,
Oh, and
Inviolate?
Violet.
How does it relate to your music?
Yeah. So I found that word some years ago, Inviolate,
Hmm.
and I really liked it. There was something about it, and I looked it up. I started seeing it come up in a book I was reading, and basically what it means is free from harm, free from being violated, untouchable.
Hmm.
Kind of like just not able to be touched or harmed in any way. So that's kind of a cool concept, and I started thinking about it, and I thought, well, what in the world, what in this world is inviolate?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
the answer is nothing. There is
yeah.
nothing in the entire universe that isn't changing or being affected somehow. But
Hmm.
there is one thing that is inviolate, and that's the human spirit. It's who we really are as consciousness, as being. You got
Hmm.
human is not inviolate. Being is
Yeah,
inviolate. It's not even it's not even of the world. Who we really are is
yeah,
not
yeah.
even of this world. It's invisible to this world. So now you're asking me to kind of go into my creative esoteric thought process, and I will. Uh, you're asking. So I kind of feel that we're here to be creative with each
Hmm.
other, and that's actually what's happening. And there is a deep joy in the creative process. When you have an idea, when an inspiration, a creative inspiration comes to you, and if you're a writer, it could be writing. If you're a cook, it could be you're tasting something with your tongue. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whatever that is, nobody is exempt
Hmm.
from receiving unique inspiration that's perfect for them.
Hmm.
Like, I'm not going to get an inspiration on how to build a business for stock or something like. It's just not my ballpark. I'm not interested. I don't attract myself to those things. Or cooking, like I am not going to be inspired to create a 5-star gourmet meal. I don't have the tools, and I'm not interested. I like to eat it, you know. But where
Yeah.
my inspiration comes is in the musical realm. That because
Hmm.
I'm a musician, so the way that I apply the word inviolate to the creative process is when you receive a unique inspiration that feels good to you, that has enthusiasm in it, that was tailor made for you by the universe for you to manifest. It wants you to. It won't, any idea, creative idea the universe gives you, it'll show you the means to manifest it. If it's a authentic idea for you. Most people live in a fantasy goals. You know what I mean? They project into the future a fantasy that once they achieve it, they'll be happy.
Understand,
Yeah, this doesn't really work, because the only time you can ever be happy is right now.
No, right now,
Now.
Not yesterday, not tomorrow, just now,
Right now. And in the future, your past was a series of right nows that build the quality of your life. So when you receive a inspiration that's perfect for you, I call that an inviolate inspiration. Because it doesn't have fantasy in it. It doesn't have fear of failing. It doesn't even have belief in it. Because when you believe you can do something, what you're actually saying is, but I don't know. I believe that these people are doing that, and I believe this, and I believe that, but really, you don't know. So there's a difference between belief and knowing. Knowing has no question in it. It has no fear. It only has joy. It only has joy. And when you receive that inviolate inspiration and you just throw yourself into it without any excuses, the mind cannot come up with excuses why you can't do it. You're living life to its fullest, because in that moment that you're creating your inviolate creativity, you are living in the now and enjoying it. The only time you can enjoy anything.
It's a good attitude, and some other people have mentioned the same way. I know the guitar player, founder of the Scorpions, Rudolf Schenker, has had the same ideas, and he created a book about this, Rock Your Life. And you have mentioned it before, you are realizing classical projects with an orchestra, in May, and in an orchestra in Finland in August. Could you explain what's behind it? Is it some kind of rock meets classic, or is it a new arranging, or what's behind it?
Well, what's behind it is kind of the same thing that's behind my guitar playing. It's relatively unpredictable what I do orchestrationally, but I always loved, ever since I was a little boy, the idea of being able to control a large group of people with little black dots. Do you know what I mean? So, I just love it, and I would just compose. I composed through my whole life, but as a rock guitar player, it's very difficult to get your music performed by an orchestra. It's a whole different world, and just like blues and jazz and rock, classical music has its snobbery. All genres do.
Okay,
Not entirely, but for the most part, everybody. It's possible for people to join the club. So it was very difficult for a rock guitar player to be seen as a composer with any merit. But my friend Code de Kloot in Holland, back in 2000, I've known him for a long time, came to me and said, and he worked at NPR Radio, and he said to me, Steve, I think that you're a good guitar player, but I believe you're a better composer. And nobody knows that. So he went ahead and he organized and produced 5 shows with the Metropole Orchestra in Holland back in, I think, 2004 and 2005. Was spread out over 2 years. And I composed the music. And my music with the orchestra is basically, I take 3 different approaches. There's the kind of stuff I compose that's with the guitar, and it's kind of like a rock song and might be from the past. Like I released... Okay, so Co put these concerts together with the Metropole. We recorded them, and I released a record called Sound Theories, Volume 1 and 2. And Volume 1 is that kind of music that I do that's orchestrations of past songs from my catalog. And then there's new type of music that I do that's guitar and orchestra. And some of the pieces are really dense. There's one called Expanding the Universe that's like 35 minutes of just wild stuff, guitar and orchestra. And then and I have other guitar and orchestra pieces. There's one piece called The Still Small Voice where I actually hold one note for 20 minutes.
Oh, yeah.
With a sustainer, and the orchestra just folds around it. It's really quite interesting.
Yes.
So, yeah. So then there's pure kind of orchestra music that I compose where there's no guitar. It's just conventional orchestra, but the music is very contemporary. It's like my guitar playing in that you can't say. You could say, oh, there's a little bit of Hendrix. Oh, there's a little bit of Jimmy Page. Oh, there's a little bit of Satriani. Oh, there's a little bit of this. It's like that. Oh, maybe there's a little Stravinsky. Oh, there's a little bit of Ligeti. Oh, there's a little bit of, whatever. But it's very Vai, It's just, I use that stuff, but I don't copy it.
Of course.
So that's really exciting to me. And I've had, after the Sound Theories record came out, all of these orchestras started to become interested in performing with me. And I've done tons of orchestra gigs around the world, and it's fantastic. So during that period, I composed a whole bunch of music, about 4 hours of music that had been performed at times, but I was never really happy with the recordings, So I decided to, bite the bullet, spend the money, because it's unbelievably expensive to record an orchestra in the studio. You can't believe it, but I worked my whole life for it, and this is my guilty pleasure. So in May, we go to the Metropole for a month, and I've got about 4 hours of music, and we'll be recording that. Now, the Metropole is more of a contemporary, younger orchestra, so they have a different mentality. They can, if you write down the word improvise, they know what it means. They're like, well, I don't know how to improvise. They have no idea, really. It's not part of their DNA. But something like the Metropole, they're hot young players, and they're adventurous. Now, some of the larger orchestra pieces are not necessarily appropriate for a youthful orchestra. They really need an established symphonic orchestra, because those entities, they breathe in a totally different way. They may not be able to improvise, but they know how to make the sonority of the entire orchestra bring the music to life, really to life, So I'll be doing that in August, and it's just like I said, guilty pleasure.
And will it be released as a Blu-ray or a CD, or is it just for your personal purposes? It will be released
it's all studio recordings, and we'll probably be filming for like a making of. But I'll probably, at the end of the day, I should get about 3 or 4 sound theory volumes out of it. So 3 or 4 CDs of this orchestra music, and some of it the fans will resonate with, because it's accessible: guitar, orchestra, drums, bass, rock and roll, but some of it is just like, it's for a select few.
Of course, maybe it's not for a very broad audience, I guess. So, and when can we expect you being on tour, maybe in Europe or Germany? Are there any plans, or is it too early, or how would you see it, more or less maybe in 2023?
Oh yeah, I'm dying to get on tour, and I'm going in to get this fixed on February 18th, and then I could start playing a month after, So then I prepare for the tour that kicks off in Europe in June, and we do a whole Western European tour, the festival circuit, and then
this year.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And then right from there, I go to. I think anything can change. So Mexico, South America, and then it's back, and then it's America before 2023. That's the fall of 22. I'll be in America, and then we go all over. Eastern
Okay,
Europe, Russia, Asia, China, Australia, Indonesia, and then
great.
back to America again, and then back to Europe again. There's
Yeah.
about 250 shows.
Oh, yeah. That's good. Yeah, these were my questions. Do you have any further information, yeah, for the readers of the Hardline magazine or your fans?
Yes, thank you. And especially for Inviolate. It's been quite a while since I've seen this kind of a reaction for one of my
Hmm.
records, and I'm deeply appreciative.
Hmm.
Thank you. And I can't wait to get there.
Okay, thank you, Steve. Thank you very much for this
Thank you.
interview.